Again, I'm Jonathan Massari.
I'm Mark Massari.
All right, so I want to talk to you about a little bit about our family. All right, starting with our grandfather. All right, Joseph Massari. Okay, he was an orphan. His wife was an orphan. They met in the foster care or something like that, or orphanage, right? But Grandpa had major PTSD. He just when we knew him, he would just sit and stare at the wall. Okay, and one day I was in his basement and I was looking through his basement and I found two guns, right? One's a shotgun and one was a Japanese rifle. Okay, they had all the Japanese markings and all there, and I was like 8 years old or something, maybe 6, 7, somewhere in there, right? Young. Anyways, I brought it up to Grandpa, not expecting he was going to answer, and I go, "Where'd you get this?" And he told me about this story about a battleship going down and all these guys getting eaten by tiger sharks and before they were rescued off the shores of some Japanese island. Okay, he scared the crap out of me about the Navy. I was never going to be in the Navy after that. Right? And he said they got rescued. Him and his one friend that survived this get to the shore. His friend gets shot in the face. He pulls his knife, kills the guy that shoots him, and that's where that rifle comes from. I was like, what? Right? And my cousin Matt still got that rifle. Right? So, anyways, we wanted to say, Mark, I served in the Army. Mark served in the Air Force. My brother Scott, he served in the Army. He did over 6 combat tours, flying to Chinook and Iraq.
He's developed all of our logos. All the APLEA logos were developed by him, including this one here, the Krav Maga logo. He designed this whole thing. So they're designed. It's a family of vets and warriors. I mean, you don't have to be a veteran or in law enforcement to be a warrior. It's a choice, I believe. You go back to the Revolutionary War, every man who had a house was a warrior in his own home. A Minuteman was somebody who had a rifle above his fireplace, and when trouble came, he could mobilize in a minute to defend freedom. That is where the National Guard came from, was the original Minutemen. But they were never a federalized thing. It was a low-level thing. There's no leaders in APLEA. Doesn't matter who started APLEA. It matters that if you're rallying with us, if you're rocking our flag, our guidon, as Jonathan said, you're part of the team, and nobody's a leader. All right,
we're all leaders.
Yeah, exactly. We're all leaders, and my brother Steve didn't serve in the military, but he's a warrior with us. In the old days, they would say to keep one son. If you had so many sons, you had to leave one so that they would make sure to carry the family line on if everybody died in war. And we've grown up in generations, so World War II, Korea, Vietnam, War on Terror, and more. And you can go backwards all the way to Civil War and Revolutionary War. Right? All these different conflicts, but the thing that's begun to change, and we believe is coming, is war is happening on our own soil. If you're standing close to 9/11, you were in a combat zone. Even if you were not a police officer, a veteran, or whatever, you were in a war zone.
You can watch news footage of people running from the smoke as it billowed into the neighborhood.
Right. If you went to the movie theater where the active shooter came in and started mowing people down with a rifle, you were in a combat zone situation, and we believe that things are getting worse and worse in America. We've lost sight, a lot of us have, of the original things that did make America a nation you wanted to live and raise your family in. And so, as things get worse and worse, it becomes more important that we don't forget how to defend our own families, defend our homes, and defend each other. Look out for your neighbor, right? If
it's not something you're gonna be able to do on your own.
Right.
A lot of us have this idea we're just gonna stay by ourselves and mind our own business. But see, we're gonna get caught up, I believe, in something bigger than ourselves. Okay? And being by yourself is not gonna be adequate, all right, to do what is necessary. Okay? There's a reason that the Indian, the Native, the first peoples that were here, all right, they were Bedouin people that hunted as groups, as warriors, as team, as family. They moved as family. They moved as a tribe, all right? Everything they did was in the context of family and team. Warriors hunted together, all right, watched each other's backs all the time, all right? So I'm saying this is, in our society, nobody knows their neighbor. So, and I know there's a lot of brothers out there too that are just sitting in their houses, all right, and got nothing And I told you about ethos in one of those videos, right? Well, I'm telling you, it meant a lot to me to go meet up with other brothers, even though it was mad uncomfortable to go up into the meeting and be like, I just sat there a lot of times and been like, I'm not going to say nothing, I'm just going to listen, and it's, but you know what? Every time I went, it was good, okay? And I want to say, so our grandpa had major PTSD, which affected my father, which affected us, okay? So PTSD and combat trauma is close to our hearts. As, we've been walking through it ourselves. As Mark said in some of his videos, he was at ground zero when 9/11 kicked off with the first responders on our soil here at ground zero.
And I also got lots of phone calls and lots of people talk to me like,
with the guard unit,
what can
right?
we do to help? No, people, my buddies like,
No, I'm saying you were mobilized with the guard unit.
Yeah, with the National Guard. I went down to feed. I was feeding FBI agents and troopers and people that were pulling the remains out. So it was a horrible time. And then later on, I went down to the Pentagon, to Andrews Air Force Base, and I worked there helping to mobilize the war on terror. Again, low level. I did a low level job, but that's not important. What's important is that our nation is under attack. Okay.
And in more ways than one, and things are going to become more evident as we go on.
The most important thing you can do is know how to take care of your family, right?
That's right. Be a
most
good father.
Most important thing you can know how to do is be family. And if you don't have a family, if you're a single guy or a single woman, you can plug in. That's what we're saying. We're saying this is our family crest, and you're part of our family when you come and be part of APLEA. Obviously, our family's pretty large. Those that have been rolling with in our Krav Maga program know this. I got brothers. I call everybody brother. Not everybody. Not everybody I call brother with love, but I'm just saying I have 3 natural brothers, a sister, and then I have a lot of other brothers too. So like if you've seen the movie Band of Brothers, sometimes combat and hard times, it says a friend loves at all times and a brother is born for adversity. Sometimes the hard times creates family, right? So that's what we're saying is we want to be family before the hard times.
Right.
And during the hard times.
This is part of that, I was always glad that before you got into something heavy, if you had any time with the unit that you were with to get to know the guy that was next to you and let him get to know who you are, because, hey, if he knows more about who I am, he might be more willing to save my ass when I'm under fire, okay? Because the more he knows about me, the more he can stand with me in my struggles, just in life. Okay, so in the same situation, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Okay, battle buddies is good in life. And unfortunately, we get out of the military, we get out of law enforcement, and we're now alone. And we don't know what to do necessarily, so we just stay alone. Nobody's going to understand. I'm not going to those clubs. I'm not going to go to there and talk to somebody. But see, those places where dudes sit around as a round table looking each other in their faces, all right, it's a place where we can all take off our armor together and bear our scars of war, no matter what the traumas may be, all right, and be vulnerable and know that you're in a safe place, and we're getting to know each other on neutral territory before crisis. So then when there is crisis, we can come together and say, we have a basis to stand on. I remember, man, when, whatever. You know what I mean?
The thing is, too, we're not a militia. Right. We're not a militant group. You don't have to call me sergeant or anything crazy like that. A lot of us have done time in the military and law enforcement. It's not about rank. It's about family, right? It's about team. It's about round table. It's everybody's a leader. You know what I'm saying? One thing I learned long a time ago with my kung fu teacher, he used to say, when it goes down, he's like, I'm not going to be there watching you. You're going to be there doing it. And so that's the truth, right? It ain't about the leaders. It's about you, right? You got to watch your own backyard. You're your own leader. If you have little kids, you're the greatest warrior your little kids know until they become older, right? They look to you, right? So, if you don't have family or don't have kids, there's somebody in your neighborhood, in your sphere of influence that you can help. Be a defender. All right, I'm Mark Massari.
Standing in relationship.
Absolutely.
That's by standing in relationship.
Mark and Jonathan Massari, this is the APLEA Rangers. Stay tuned when we put out more of these videos. The thing is just expanding and exploding.
We're just trying to bring definition so everybody knows what is it. Yeah.
All right.
Later.
Bye.